Welcome back everybody to the 2019 LCK Summer Split playoffs. So today we'll be joined by Mina, Kiin, FLICKR, and Senan, aka Jopsal. After the most competitive LCK split ever, today is the first day of postseason. So we'll be having a wildcard series, 4th versus 5th, SKT versus Afreeca in about 10 minutes. So even in the last week of the LCK regular split, we weren't really sure which team will make it to the playoffs and also which team will go down to the relegations. Every game, every set matters. Well, it could have been very stressing schedules for the players. As a viewer, it was a very exciting split. So let's take a look at the LCK Summer Season standings. Griffin is on the first place, followed by T1 Gaming, Sandbox, and SKT Afreeca are having wildcard series today. So those are the teams who are going to the playoffs. And then Genji, Kingzone, and KT, they are staying in LCK. And Hana Life Esports and Generic Greenwings, they are going down for a relegation. So they have to be in the LCK promotion series to stay in LCK. And also the competition for the final spot in playoffs was really close. Afreeca was always on the way to the tie-breaking match on the way to the Royal Park, but well, they were actually down by T1 taking down Genji. They got the final ticket for playoffs. This is the LCK Summer Split playoff schedule. Today we are having a wildcard series, SKT versus Afreeca, and then the winner of today will advance the playoffs round 1 versus Sandbox. So today, don't forget that wildcard is best of 3 series, and the rest of the playoffs are best of 5 series. Then let's take a look at the stat review. SK Telecom versus Afreeca. Most impressive stats will be highlighted in green color. So one of the most interesting thing is that, well, Afreeca, even though they're on the 5th place in terms of standings, they are on the 7th rank for KDA, which means they die a lot. Actually, they are the team that has the biggest number for death, followed by Generic Greenwings with 546 deaths. So this means that they really enjoy fighting, because also the number for kills is on the 2nd place, and 1st place is T1 Gaming on the top of the standings with 19 more kills. So Afreeca apparently really loves fighting. They make kills a lot, but at the same time they die a lot as well. And this is the match record between SK Telecom and Afreeca. SKT is a little bit in a lead. So when Afreeca won a match, the game was really close. However, when SKT took down Afreeca, they were really quick, picking up 2-0 victory. So, well, the team who is gonna be the one taking down game number 1 will also matter a lot. So let's take a look at the highlights from SKT versus Afreeca in Summer Split round 1 and 2. The most loved pick in round 1 was Senan for bot lane. So aiming on Senan showed great sustainability with his ability, Senan's skills. However, Senan is kind of out of the meta, but still there are possibility for Senan to hit the Rift again. And this game actually, Afreeca was in a huge lead. However, Teddy was concentrating and focusing a lot, and he was able to turn the game around with his Zaya. This game was really close. And fire in the hole. This is the montage moment with combo of Dread and Ucal. It was a very close moment, but however, Dread with his body slam and ultimates, he was able to turn the fight around. And Ucal is shouting out, "Why am I so lucky?" with that lucky shot with Dread's ultimate. So Afreeca really has a high win rate on their Yasuo Gragas competition as a mid and jungle duo. So moving on to the second round, SKT was in a big winning streak. When Afreeca took down SKT in the first round, actually Nofe was in tears points, but in the second round, SKT with a perfect performance was able to take down or give it back to Afreeca. Even though Corki was very well scaled, they were able to focus on him and just melt him down and win team fights. So we can say SKT is finally back. And this game is the most iconic game for Clid. He made a triple steal on one set on Skarner up against Dread. He was stealing away Baron and also Drake's. It was a perfect 2-0 game up against Afreeca. So all the fans are always now counting on Clid to make some of the super plays even when SKT is in a danger. So the game was really going back and forth in this year, especially in Summer Split, but in terms of recent match, SKT was having a huge momentum. Then let's take a look at the key players of both teams. First, it will be Kahn versus Kiin on top lane. So one of the most impressive stat here is that CS difference at 15 minutes. So Kiin has one of the best laning phase stats. Well, even if it's not on the this slide, he actually is on the third place for goal difference at 15 minutes as well. However, Kahn's stats are not as dominant as Kiin or other top laners, to be honest. So we'll have to keep an eye on this match. At the same time, both players are making a lot of solo kills in lane. So today we might be able to see some aggressive playstyle on top lane. And also, two players are the Aatrox mains, so draft fight up against Aatrox will also be very significant. And moving on, another key player comparison will be Clid versus Dread in jungle. Clid is the final lineup or the final most important player, one of the most important players that the fans can count on. In SKT and Dread, he is one of the players that makes a lot of plays in the early phase. So they have some sort of different characteristics, but it's gonna be a very interesting or exciting match to watch today. They have different stats and different phase today, but we'll have to wait and see for patch 9.16. There were some huge changes, so let's take a look at it. First, Syndra, Lux, Blanc are having a buff. So, Pantheon is going to be disabled for the playoffs, but being Syndra buffed, maybe we can look forward to seeing FLICKR Syndra back on the Rift. And Azrael and Sejuani are having a nerf. So now we have to be really cautious using the arcane shift. The cooldown is longer than before, so we will not be able to see more aggressive performance on Azrael from now on. So maybe there will be some change in playstyle or even the draft in terms of bot lane. And there are more champions that are being nerfed. Sylas, Yuumi, and Tompkins. Yuumi especially is the most banned champion during the regular split, so this will also be a huge impact for the draft. Whether the team will open it since the champion is nerfed, or do they still want it to be banned out. So there weren't many times for the teams to prepare for the playoffs, so whether they adapted well to the 9.16 patch will be another big point. And Corki and Azir are getting nerfed finally, so maybe we will be now able to see some faster and shorter games, or the players can stick to the champions that they're feeling comfortable with or they're used to. And also Biscuit Delivery, the Ruin, is also giving a nerf in terms of laning phase. With those two champions nerfed, maybe Akali will be one of the top tier champions in the mid lane. And also, Azir and Corki are nerfed, so maybe Aatrox will be one of the must ban card for both teams.
픽에 정말 많은 변화가 있을 것 같은.
So we are expecting a huge change in terms of pick and bans.
내용 확인해 봤고요.
And this will be the end of the patch notes we're reviewing. So any predictions for SKT versus Afreeca, analysts? Well, because it's best of 3, well, SKT, the team who are so good at best of 5 match, can show even improved performance. However, Afreeca, they're really aggressive in terms of performance, so maybe the team who takes the game number 1 will be able to close out the game with a victory. But Suwon thinks that, well, game number 1 really matters, but in game-wise, well, FLICKR versus Ucal in laning phase will be really important, especially Ucal is so good at silence, pushing lanes and influencing other lanes. It will be really important. Also, Kahn is also good at making play with the synergy with Clid, so Kiin's ability to go 2-2-1 will also matter a lot. So this will be the end of the previous show for SKT versus Afreeca Wildcard match, and I'm going to pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ji-sun, for that intro. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK 2019 Summer Playoffs. I'm Atlas. This is, of course, Papa Smithy to debut the playoffs of 2019, our most competitive season ever. So excited to be here. Will it be Afreeca? Will it be SKT? I think my mind is saying SKT, but Afreeca can always win on any day.
Especially in a best of 3, Atlas. That is the interesting thing about today is we're moving to a new patch. A lot has changed, but not a lot has changed. But priorities will be very different between the two teams, and how that actually plays out in pick and ban, because you listen and analysts have been, I think more than ever, really firm on draft being the most important thing recently. You screw up game 1 draft, you only have 1 game left, or you're knocked out of playoffs, Atlas. And especially when things like Worlds qualification for SKT is close, but it'll be close but no cigar if they lose in this match. There's a lot going on. So game 1, I'm with the analysts. Game 1 here I think is so important.
And I also think, because we're moving to a new patch, that's a direct buff for the Afreeca Freecs, right? SKT throughout almost their entire last 2 or 3 years have really, have really struggled to adapt to a patch on the first day. So we'll see what they're going to be able to do here as we have a look at the points of the match. 1 shot, 1 kill, SKT versus volatile playstyle of Afreeca. And you saw those Ezreal nerfs, a direct nerf to aiming's Ezreal. This guy likes pressing E at the enemy and relies on that cooldown not being too long. So now, with Arcane Shift being nerfed a little bit, having a few extra seconds in the early levels, that could be really, really dangerous here for aiming.
There's a lot to like about this matchup. Historic matchup. SKT and Afreeca have an organizational rivalry for a long time, even before Afreeca were a contender. SKT and Afreeca would trade games when Marin defected over to Afreeca. Yeah. That added a bit of personality to it as well. But now it's the newer days, and Afreeca are our young guns. You know, these are very, very talented mechanical players, but they can also, you know, have all those elements of tilt, of anguish, of being on a big stage and not necessarily having a lot of experience there. And SK Telecom come in with a very experienced roster, as you would imagine. What does it all mean for the in-game? We're not to know, but is it going to be an extension of our grander story? Because what do we start the year talking about? New blood rising and the new generation of the LCK. Isn't it auspicious that our 3 teams waiting on the result of this match are the last 3 teams to be promoted to the LCK? Griffin, Damwon, and Sandbox are our overlords.
The boss run.
That is the
boss
Those
run.
are the final bosses. Meanwhile, the representatives of the old generation are these 2, as we actually have an interview with some of the players of SKT and Afreeca.
9연승 했을 때 뭐 5연패에서 조금이라도 패배를 덜했으면 어땠을까 오히려 이런 생각 좀 많이 했었고요. 플레이오프를 진출하게 됐는데 이 기회를 꼭 잡아서 결승전까지 꼭 가고 싶습니다. 아프리카 기세보다 저희 기세가 더 좋다고 생각하기 때문에 그런 부분은 하나도 두렵거나 생각해본 적 별로 없는 것 같아요. 필살기를 준비했다고 하는데 어차피 초반 픽일 거라고 생각해요. 그렇게 큰 걱정은 되지 않습니다. 오늘 좀 가장 중요한 라인은 좀 미드라고 생각하고 있고요. 클리드 선수가 굉장히 좀 잘할 줄 거라고 생각하고 있습니다. 팬분들이 굉장히 좀 많이 걱정하셨잖아요. 근데 오늘 경기력으로 인해서 그런 걱정 조금이라도 덜어드리고 싶습니다.
In the beginning of the summer split, this is not the result that we expected. However, since we are now in the playoffs, I'm quite satisfied and I'm just gonna do better for the upcoming series. Well, we have done this miracle run before, so it will be really important for us to step up on each process. So if we can just get the trophy, it's gonna be a really great result for us. So the wildcard series will be best of 3, so we're going to be staying focused, and I want to show great performance to the fans. Well, in the beginning of the summer split, we kind of accomplished the first line for our goals, so it feels really nice to be in the playoffs. SKT, they have a great roster, and also they won the spring split, so it's going to be a huge mountain that we have to overcome, and we really have put hard work for this, so if we do our job really good, I think we will be able to pull it off. And I think Dread, I'm expecting him to show great performance up against Clid in jungle, and also for an individual player, it's gonna be a huge chance for him to grow up. Well, watching Damon versus Genji, we were so worried, but I really enjoyed watching it. And I think FLICKR has an even stronger performance in playoffs, so I'm gonna be improved as well, and we're just gonna have a great game. For the ceremony, maybe I'll show you some of the body get, but I'll show you after I win the match. I know our team is a bit of a coin flipping team, so it's gonna be out of the wild cards or making it to the finals, so I'll just do my best. Afreeca fighting!
Thank you very much, Ji-sun, for the translation, as here we are, SKT versus the Afreeca Freecs. I love that Ucal acknowledges that the Afreeca Freecs are, in fact, a coin flip.
2-0 or 0-2, crashing out of wild cards or making it all the way. Afreeca Freecs 1 year ago almost ran the entire gauntlet. Remember, they started in Wildcard. That was a Spirit roster, but they made it all the way to 5 games against Griffin in an amazing semifinal that sent away OGN Sangam Arena. You and I casting on that day 1 year ago. Here we are a year later. A lot has changed. Korea has fallen from grace. SKT and Afreeca are the old guard, even though Afreeca are the proverbial old guard, but also some very young players. It's confusing, but it's 2019. We're trying to deal with it. Here is SK Telecom T1. They're going to be the first team to be introduced. This was the team that looked elect to be champions of the regular season, but fell down after their 9-match win streak. They will be persisting with the same roster.
I like that you say
played there, and Mata will not be starting game number 1.
Yep, mentioning Effort, you were talking about falling down, and Effort had a little bit of a trip there, making his way out to Lowell Park. And yes, this team did have first seed for this match, but they have elected to go for that red side. Understandable, especially against the Afreeca Freecs. Denying red side picks from these guys is definitely a great idea, and I think there's a certain champion, namely Talia, that is going to be highly contested based on Azir and Corki both taking hits and them both being champions that both Ucal and Faker have been heading towards. Here we are, Afreeca Freecs making their way out. They will be our blue side. The colors will be correct for both of our teams here in game number 1.
And we've got an interesting scenario here where we have multiple players making their best of 5 debut on the side of Afreeca Freecs. Dread and Senan will be making their LCK best of 5 debuts, and that is something, well, it's a best of 3 today, but a playoffs debut nonetheless, and that is something that we have to talk about, as the elephant in the room is experience. When you've never played a playoff match, and today it will be a best of 3, specifically for Dread and Senan. Just because your performance is normal during the regular season doesn't mean it'll be normal when you know that your season could end today. If Afreeca Freecs lose today, they will not play again until, of course, Worlds qualification. Because they made playoffs, they actually gate-kept Gen G from making a Worlds qualification run. So because of that, being those younger players, the performance is going to be sky high or down low, and that makes it so intriguing. That's why it should be a very watchable best of 3 between SKT and Afreeca.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I need to be devil's advocate there a little bit, Papa, because you're talking about Ucal here. You're talking about the savior of 2018 KT roster, the man that got Score his qualification finally before his retirement this year. This is a guy that plays in the clutch, and now he has Kiin beside him as well, who was such a key member in that match against Griffin, despite the fact that they lost. So certainly, there is some talent here that knows how to go the distance.
But we can play further devil's advocate and talk about how Ucal wasn't even playing in spring because he couldn't gel with the roster. So just because he was on a team of stars and legends and was able to play mid lane well, doesn't mean he's going to be able to have sage advice for the young guns here on the side of Afreeca. So there's counterpoints everywhere, and there's a new patch. We're on patch 9.16 for today, guys. In case you missed the preview show, see it in the top middle of your screen. The Wildcard game is the first game of the playoffs, but it is a best of 3 on this patch. The Pantheon rework is disabled, so no Pantheon today. Otherwise, everything else is enabled. And you have to wonder how much will be new, how much will be old, and even will we see the creeping specter of champions like Mordekaiser that in Korea and around the world are creeping up, even though there were no changes on 9.16 for the Mordekaiser.
Why didn't you say Creeping Dread? That's the name of his pack.
Because we've got a player named Dread, and we're trying to be clear, Atlas.
It would have been a double pun. You had a double pun sitting there on the table, and you elected not to go with it. I am disappointed.
I'm a classy guy. What can I say?
Well, there's the Taliyah ban, as we were expecting. SKT are going to deny that first pick, as Sejuani is going to be taken off the board. Now, Sejuani has been nerfed, right? But the nerf to her passive is a direct buff to her ability to go up against Trundle. Papa Smithy, okay?
That's a very glass half full version of the Sejuani change. Remember that because it's the first global game on 9.16 in a major region, this draft will probably be nothing like what we see in the LCK final in about a week and a half's time. So there's going to be some growing pains, and something like the Sejuani ban is a bit surprising. Look at Yuumi, for example, who was
still getting banned.
Hard nerfed in this patch, really hard nerfed, and still going to be banned. So teams and SKT are definitely ones who we are most suspicious of in terms of where their priorities are. It's largely champions like Aatrox and Gragas that weren't changed on this patch. They're likely to jump up in priority. We see a blue side Aatrox ban, a first pick Gragas. With Sejuani taking a backseat, I actually expected a lot of early Skarner picks, but also, the Gragas is #1 jungler right now.
And also Dread's favorite, especially considering the fact that they can flex this Gragas everywhere. I mean, aiming Senan, aiming has been a decent Yasuo player, but Ucal, you saw it in the highlight video, his Yasuo is incredible. Hard carry performance there. The Skarner flavor of the month for week 10 of the LCK is, of course, going to be locked away here by SKT and fits their wheelhouse as more a mid to late team.
I actually think it fits against Afreeca Freecs really well, too, because Afreeca are a mechanics team that makes a lot of positioning mistakes, and you've got Skarner to punish positioning. Now, Thomas Kench has been just smashed in the face so many times, but it is the LCK mascot champion.
This guy has
all about dispelling, engage, and rotating. A very good combo champion with the Skarner as well. So even after the latest nerf, remember, first game on 9.16, for at least the first game, Thomas Ken's priority still high.
Right, but his movement speed's down 10. He's very sluggish.
Yep.
And he also only 2 seconds on his thick skin. Kiana is going to be locked in here. Absolutely fantastic on the Afreeca Freecs side. Is it going to be Kiin playing, or is it going to be Ucal is the question. I expect that Ucal will be piloting that. In the mid lane is aiming. Not too worried about those Arcane Shift nerfs, and will be locking in the Ezreal.
For a lot of regions, it wouldn't be surprising to see Kiana locked in, but remember the LCK, we had the numbers below, 25% win rate, only 4 picks, low contestant rate. In general, assassins have always been pretty low priority in Korea, but Kiana is undeniably very strong and a flex pick that continues the trend here. Probably a mid pick for Ucal, but there's a chance it goes jungle, as we've been seeing from teams like Splice and the LEC and around the world.
And fits Dread's wheelhouse very, very well. I mean, this guy's the Kahn player, so can, of course, easily head over to playing a bit of that Kiana as well. So we'll see. It's not likely, considering the fact that there is a Gragas locked in, and Gragas Ezreal isn't necessarily the lane we'd expect, but Ucal could be playing Ezreal in the mid lane. Who knows what's going to happen here in this game?
It is Tom Kench as well, so with the nurse towards him, there's always the chance Gragas will be flexed down. I'm with you. I think it's jungle Gragas, mid lane on the Kiana, but we're giving all the information for the breadcrumb trail that is pick and ban.
Yep, and the Azir going to be banned away as well. Ucal trying to protect that matchup in theory. I do want to talk about Ucal just in specific, pairing with the Kiana. Ucal always has been one of these players that's very good at sitting in a brush and murdering someone as they walk past. That was sort of what made his name on his Talia play. In a lot of cases, he'd find the seismic shoves and kill someone in one rotation. So Kiana certainly fits into that one, especially if he's going to go the rich play style that we saw from Gen G.
But how much priority are you going to get to actually be able to chill in a brush and find those picks? Because Varus Tom is still Varus Tom. It allows Varus to do his job of slamming lane. So we'll see how much of a lane counter pick Senan will move to, or whether he will default to the Nautilus that he's most known for. When it comes to blind picks, you're noticing that we're going to get a ban at FLICKR's undefeated mid lane, Nico.
Yep.
The Syndra buff here makes her a very viable, usually blue side blind pick for the mid lane, but with Kiana expected to go mid lane, that can do interesting things to the draft. I'm looking for a solo laner here from SKT.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Kassadin buffs, but now that Kiana's been locked in, it's impossible to pick that champion. The Renekton is going to be taken, and we were having some musings earlier on. Pup, you think that Shen, the buffs may have brought him into contention as the crocodile counter pick that he used to be?
It's definitely always a really strong laning matchup for Shen, but Korean top lane is very reticent to lock it in. I actually think it's a really viable matchup in a spot like this, but I think we're going to see the Gangplank instead to allow for some playmaking. And speaking of playmaking, we're seeing the Pyke here
This
be
is a
mused
very
over.
Afreeca comp.
It's a 2v2 laning champion against Tahm Kench, right? Famously there. The great health interaction is all about health numbers.
Oh no.
Gonna be moved over to and gonna actually revisit his Alistar that I had a lot of strong words for. Now, there's been some time to elevate the performance. They wanted some more engage. You look over the side of Afreeca, very low on the magic damage quotient, mostly just the Gragas jungle after the trimming down of some of Ezreal's AP ratios. SKT looking for a champion to most likely jump into the top lane if this would be the case. Maybe they'll try and run Renekton into the Kiana.
Yep, could be a decent matchup. Of course, Bruises against Assassins has always worked out in the past. We'll see who's going to be heading over there. FLICKR at the moment hovering over the Crocodile, but all the chances that we could have a last-minute switch. But Vladimir is often something that's been elected into the Gangplank. You just scale up alongside him and then hope that you can be the one doing more AoE damage than the barrel-wielding pirate. SKT sort of playing blow for blow here with the Afreeca Freecs composition. Do you think that there is a clear winner when it comes to the draft here, Papa Smithy? Because I can't really find one.
I actually think it's 3 winning lanes for SKT if we do settle on the mid lane Renekton, because Vladimir, famous Gangplank counterpick. The Renekton should have priority over Kiana in most trades. Not a matchup I've been able to watch too often, but Renekton bullies melees, and it's Tahm Kench Varus, right? So assuming things don't go out of order in the early game, I think SKT have a really powerful draft here. And I like the Renekton into Kiana on paper, but when it's Ignite, when it's the potential for a level 2 gank, if Gragas comes up big, the snowball is real.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? I'm looking at it and I'm seeing Skarner versus Gragas being very much in favor of Gragas if he can get around the map and he can punish lanes that are wanting to push in. So in theory, if Afreeca is going to play Afreeca early game League of Legends, this should go their way. However, if SKT can make it all about their game style, it should go all the way over to them as far as scaling is concerned.
There's some very clear tools that can be used, and I also want to confirm that with Renekton in the mid lane, Skarner actually has some edge gank potential pre-6 to come in and follow up on the Ruthless Predator. So it all starts here, Atlas, 9-16, League of Legends.
Yep, a lot to find out here as we get into the playoffs. Game number 1 right now. T1 fans in full voice here in Lowell Park. That is full up for our best of 3 here today. The Wildcard always been a best of 3, sort of how it works out. As FLICKR playing Renekton for the first time today. But Papa, how many times has he played Renekton in the mid lane in all time? can't remember.
I want to say it's 0, it could be 1. It's kind of where we're at in terms of a pick like Renekton mid, a very edge meta pick. But Faker's played a lot of stuff. Played Darius bot lane, right?
He has.
That happened. That's a match that I cast, and it was an interesting one.
I remember I was there for that one as well. Our observers were heroic in that series, moving the icons around.
Let's have a look here. I do actually have the ability to jump through the stats, and I believe it is his first Renekton mid lane game. So another newbie for Faker here. But Afreeca versus SKT, a long-time rivalry that's come through playoffs and has been around. I actually want to zoom out even more, and we do have Coma versus Nofe today, which is a really fun rivalry. The first ever LCK split was GE Tigers versus SK Telecom T1 in the final, and that was when, famously, Nofe kind of took some mess about Coma and tried to get a lot of trash talk going on there, and then got 3-0 slammed by Tom and the subs. Easy and Tom put them in the dumpster then. So it's a long-time rivalry, and two of our kind of most prominent coaches here in Coma and Nofe. A rivalry renewed 4.5 years later with a big change in squad from the GE days to Afreeca Freecs.
Well, let's see how Afreeca can do as far as starting off the momentum as the young guns, and see whether SKT can just do the SKT thing. Senan getting his headbutts off here at level 1. And Afreeca probably should be fine attempting to nullify this, but I like that you mentioned that the Varus Tahm Kench should have a really easy time. The Ezreal Alistar basically doesn't do a whole lot for a very long time unless they get jungle help, so it should be pretty comfortable here for Teddy and Effort.
Honestly, this is a really, really powerful draft from SKT. They don't often go this way of counterpicking multiple lanes and getting priority in multiple lanes, but I believe they've gone there here.
Wow, okay, Ucal.
But Kiana, unexplored champion in a lot of ways, press the attack. Renekton is literally saying, camp mid, please, Skarner. And there will be times where that can happen. Kiana is very, very powerful on 9/16 and pretty unexplored in terms of LCK games.
Well, you can see Dread in between Clid and Faker right now. Doesn't quite have vision, but is just going to wander over here. Doesn't use the Blast Cone and is going to get rid of that Spire, as now Clid knows this is terrible. No more Spire for that attack speed, and is just going to get bopped out of this one. A lot of damage, aiming, thinking about eating over that wall, but at least now he remembers that the nerf is there. Isn't going to be going overly aggressive, but now at least going to get good lane positioning. And already the Gragas being a bully against the Skarner, something that SKT fans should have been fearing at the beginning of this game.
We'll take a little bit of time before Kahn is able to do his Vladimir thing against GP, so at least this is an early lane where Afreeca will have a bit of priority. But kind of come level 7, level 8, that's where things really start to look good for SKT. The Ignite pressure is probably some of the reason that the mid lane roam was so easy for Afreeca Freecs. It's one of those things like Ignite versus Teleport. It's very clear where the battle lines are drawn in terms of what they do in terms of skirmishing. And for now, at least, Faker has been respectful. TP's back in. Got a Ruby Crystal, but wanted to get a buy-in either way.
And Clid really wanted to get a Rift Scuttler as well, but he's been double scuttled this game against Dread. Dread now moving over. Finally, will be taking his blue buff as well. At the 4-minute mark, another headbutt. Pulv is Teddy. Gonna have to get devoured. Regurgitate will come in here as Effort. Taking a while to throw him out, but it's a decent stun there with the trample from Senan. Now they're turning it though, Teddy. A lot of DPS, remember, on this Varus. The thick skin looked like it hadn't been nerfed there. Effort, good timing on that.
Not going to be using the aggressive Devour in that scenario. Not available off cooldown, so not able to actually get a high trade in there. We watched through all of this. Faker doing some good stuff in terms of the 2v2 in the bot lane. Faker very respectful so far. As Skarner, understandably, trying to get that clear off.
Yep. Doing the best that he can. Of course, Clid is going to be going for that level 6 power spike. Dread wanting to get things done a little bit earlier on there. Double Predator, though, means that both of these junglers are going to be able to have a lot of agency come that ultimate ticking over. As Ucal picks up some grass and throws it at Faker. Does deny any Culver Meek trades. Ruthless Predator trades from Faker, which is decent. Another Q coming out there as the Terra Shape, really low cooldown on the Kiana.
The reset mechanic there is really powerful, where you can hold on to an element and then go for some very strong trades. The Ignite, Electrocute, very clear what he wants to do, and they're actually posturing for another blue side invade here to potentially look for a lot of pressure onto Faker.
Yep. Ucal doing some masonry here, picking up the wall. As It is going to continue. A lot of shove here out of Ucal, who's had relative control of this lane. Not what I was expecting from this matchup, which is sort of a theoretical one at this stage. Haven't seen too much of it, of Kiana versus Renekton, but as it goes on, Ucal will be threatening with the Ignite, so it does skew how this one is going to look.
There's things like the fact that it's in mid lane versus top lane, the fact that the jungle pressure is very, very different between a Gragas and a Skarner.
And I think it'll evolve over the game, right? Sure. Like, based on what level each of these junglers are, at what points they're going to be noticed around the map, vision going to be a big thing. And at the moment, it's all about Ucal. You can see double control ward in the mid lane, and that's why he's able to push up so far and so relentlessly. As Dread making his way down towards the bottom side. Red ward is there. I believe it has spotted them, as no control ward in this brush is discovered by the barrel.
Matchups can always skew, but what I want to draw your attention to is kind of alluding to what you were previewing about someone like how Kiana often plays the game, which is assassin gameplay usually requires a map state where the enemy is forced to face check you, and usually with that you need a turret advantage, a vision advantage. Point those things off when eventually Vlad runs at GP and he has to run away, where Renekton should have a lot of agency around mid, where Varus, Tahm Kench are usually very safe to get priority. In that scenario where the inevitability is more of an SKT-controlled map, Afreeca will find it difficult. They'll have to be creative to use their chess pieces in order to find an advantage. That's why you look at the draft, like, okay, SKT, you stuck the landing on this. However, Afreeca are a team that is very kind of understood in playing a chaos game and being able to just pack up and send players 4 or 5 to one lane and try to make plays happen. Try to lead with the ultimate stun there. Doesn't find it. FLICKR just able to use a very simple cooldown to get away.
Yep, just slices it. Speaking of simple cooldowns, Aiming gonna ult away Bertha there. And taking away Effort's Brethren as well is just a real worry here for SKT. So Clid being put behind though, I mean that could have been the level 6. Didn't actually see the experience bar on the Skarner, but could have been a huge problem as far as getting towards that Impale. Might be one more camp.
FLICKR's ecstatic about not having to flash on the mid lane gank and blowing the Predator as well from the Gragas, so a lot was repelled.
Yep.
With just not being stunned against the wall.
Also, being able to pick up Ninja Tabi, that is so much value against the Kiana, not only for the armor, but also for the movement speed.
To me, a lot of this, how this game plays out, is kind of just the natural ebbs and flows of laning phases. For example, let's say that Afreeca had a winning duo bot lane in terms of priority, which you wouldn't rate Ezreal plus Alistar in this matchup.
Yep.
Then you push in bot, you walk over to the Drake multiple times, and then suddenly SKT's contesting River against a champion who is broken in the River. Kiana's incredibly strong with how her ult synergizes with all the different walls around a Drake. But because they don't have priority, it's less likely that you're going to be face-checking Kiana trying to walk over the Drake, because right now, the River control on the bot side is SKT. It's another thing where Kiana's effectiveness is dulled a little bit, and it does play into the SKT playbook.
Well, in the mid lane, you can see these trades going much better for FLICKR now that he does have a little bit more of that control. But we are going to have the Supremacy available again pretty soon from Ucal, and as that is happening, SKT are going to be taking this Ocean Drake very early on in this game. Still mentioning the priority situation as FLICKR's going to slice, dice, get himself out. And Afreeca, no way that they can contest this one. They do have a slight gold advantage. A lot to do with the Kleptomancy on the bottom side, as well as Kiin shooting the Hemomancer over and over again, as Ucal going to do the rich maneuver, wandering towards the top side on this Kiana, but doesn't seem to find himself a way in. A lot of vision available for Kahn around this lane, as Hemo Plague has to come out, as Kiin has been winning trades here. See whether this is going to get Kahn towards that level 9 mark. The understood time where the Vladimir really starts to get the better of things.
But look at the minimap. The minimap tells you that SKT's winning, because they have control wards everywhere, spotting every possible rotation by an assassin comp. You know, at the end of the day, Kiana wants to assassinate people. Gragas, despite his large stature, is also a creative ganker that wants to get kills and wants to get rolling as the only AP damage dealer on his team. FLICKR wants to scuttle there, not going to be able to pick it up. So given how predictable the map is, SKT is just saying, well, you can't do what you want to do. We're going to keep farming, and then eventually we feel really strong about where 5v5 is going. I don't think it's guaranteed The role of Renekton here is a bit unexplored. But there's, theoretically, Vlad running at a very low-range team, and Vlad doing Vlad things, and there being very little pressure, because how are you going to assassinate a Varus? Through everyone and with a Devour. So I think SKT just trying to keep the map predictable. So far the game state suits them.
Yeah, well, we're looking for a gank. Effort is here, though. Headbutt Polv onto the Renekton, but Culver Meek with full rage is going to get him back up to pretty high health. There's the Impale, though. Dread has been spotted out immediately. Goes into the stasis, and there's the ult from the Kiana. The supremacy we've been waiting for the first blood, as Senan's getting it turned on, but has the ultimate available, and Afreeca will take first blood and get out.
SKT thought they had Afreeca exactly where they wanted them. Flash over the wall. Kiana ultimate. They get the pick, and they don't even overblow the ignite to do it. So, nice calculation there. Pick was very clearly turned on its head. That's a nice little advantage to Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, and you talk about next levels, but that was the next level afterwards coming up as well. Looked like Dread had been turned on, but he uses that to his advantage. And you can see what happens when you play in a corridor against Kiana. That burst damage is just ridiculous. Shout-outs to the man that got first place in the Penta this week, Swiffer from our hometown.
Old teammate of mine.
OCE. Old teammate of yours from, what, 2012?
Yeah. He's been a pro gamer a long time.
He has.
The proest of gamers.
And that qualified, you know, order for Gauntlet, so it's pretty cool stuff, as we are going to move our attention back to SKT versus Afreeca. Less reminiscing, but definitely was a pretty sweet play, and is an example of what you can do in a team fight if you can get it in the right spot on this Kiana.
And it's more of a skirmish in that case, but it's definitely a point. If you're taking a Afreeca River-controlled team fight, you're very likely to get a lot of value out of the Kiana ultimate in particular. So nicely done there from Afreeca. Don't know if we'll get a replay of it, but basically they turned a bad situation into a good one because Kiana is that unique champion with the flash over the wall.
Yep. I feel like Ucal is just good at terrain-based champions. It was a Talia 1 trick, of course, so now that he can use more abilities that have to do with the ground, he's probably feeling pretty comfortable, as Kiin is going to eat some oranges and burn the Rift Scuttler for a little while. And once again, that control has been turned around. Afreeca and SKT have been trading vision along the river quite a lot this game. You were talking about it when SKT had full control just after they took the Drake, but as you can see, it is right there, as this is going to be that first blood. Looked like Dread had been caught. Afreeca turned it on its head.
Yeah, with the TP in the mid lane, you look at this and it looks like an SKT1 fight until Flash Kiana. And then Kiana is a very unique champion, but how she can play in areas like that. So I think the playbook play from SKT looked very strong, but credit to Afreeca reacting to it and the sort of chaos play we wanted from Ucal. Look at.
Yep. The difference between Ucal's Kiana and Rich's is that he uses the brush Q a lot. As Shelly's been started, everyone has converged. Aiming, taking a little longer to get here, but they have slowed damage on this Rift Herald. Headbutt Polv, but only onto one. Cannon Barrage flies forward, and immediately Effort is destroyed. But Hemo Plague into the backline. Kahn, Sanguine Pool is there. The barrel doesn't do anything, as Chains of Corruption may turn this one. A double stun, but Vision Control is there, and FLICKR is going to be able to grab a kill over the side of SKT. Flash Impale comes forward. Clid hasn't found the kills yet, though, as Ucal dives on forward. He thinks that this is his time, and Senan gets into the backline. He'll be able to take down the cow, as Afreeca may have found the chaos that they've been looking for. It is going to be an even trade in the end, 3 for 3, and Shelly is going to survive.
Even trade overall, re-engaged by Clid, that not all of his teammates seemed ready for, but you can understand why. A lot of ultimates on cooldown when the re-engage happens. We get the replay here, fully engaged onto Effort, and he dies very quickly, pops down. The Supreme Display, Talon is used, a lot of ults are used, no value out of the Gragas cask. That's why we see the re-engage. But after this way, you assume it's done when Dread goes down, the Clid flashes in. It's awkward terrain to fight on, though, because they have no vision of the area Kiin and Amy are kiting back to, so a messy fight, 3 for 3 overall.
Yep, and Senan just getting multiple wards in the enemy jungle, just saying worth. Look, deep vision, guys. Traded it for my life, no worries. Went 1 for 1 with Teddy, so see whether they are able to get any value from those couple of wards on the enemy red buff. Mountain Drake available here, as Ucal has moved down towards the bottom side to do a bit of split pushing. Now Afreeca will be able to gain control of this Dragon area.
Here's Afreeca working on the Drake. Supreme display of talent a couple of seconds away from cooldown. Control ward's already laid. This is definitely the scene of a crime if SKT walk up. So smartly, they say, well, we don't want to give up a Mountain Drake, but we don't have the positioning in order to contest it. Kiin showing a lot of respect for a cross-map play.
Yep, potentially FLICKR, of course, is moving in and out of vision quite a lot, so wants to make sure that he doesn't get dove. Entire topside jungle camps are available here, as Dread probably wants to get over and take them, but you can see SKT, Kahn up there. I mean, these minions not going to die to that one True Shot Barrage, and you mentioned how this matchup evolves. Dash Cannon done, 20% CDR completed on top of it, and some Sorcerer Shoes. Kahn is very strong on the Vladimir.
Still plenty of area to grow. We'll wait and see if it's the Death Cap straight up or if it's Zonius to force the fights. Kiin had to be respectful, went for a very early magic resist item in order to kind of get through the lane as scot-free as possible. It means Trinity Force delayed till about a 17-minute completion.
Interesting that he went for the Spectre's Cowl instead of the Hex Drinker. Often you see that as the MR item of choice on this Gangplank.
It does.
Spirit Visage does synergize very well.
And specifically, it's the fact that it will be harder to turret dive with Spirit Visage W heal.
Yeah.
Later in the game, topside.
Yep, Hemoplague comes in as, okay, Tides of Blood going to turn it. He's still got the Sanguine Pool, remember, guys, and uses it to dodge the body slam. Barrel comes down to get rid of Clid. Dread surviving for the moment, and there's the Cannon Barrage, but aiming, taking so much damage on the bottom end. Effort, wishing he had a Hex Flash opportunity, wanted to go over and devour the Ezreal, but isn't able to do it. No kills, but enough damage taken in order to gather Shelly for SKT. It really feels like this game has turned.
But moments like that show you when lane assignment gets tricky. Ucal is on an Ignite mid laner, so he wanted to go top side instead of bot, because he doesn't have a TP to play bot side. And because of that, GP goes bot lane with Spectre's Cowl against an AD opponent with TP. In all of the hype, the rotation happens. And speaking of rotations, looking for Kiin.
Yep, he's going to get stunned up there. Eats the oranges a little bit too late as the barrel comes down. Is going to be able to pop it, wanting to turn this, but doesn't have Cannon Barrage, unfortunately. So that's going to mean that's a very dead Pirate on the bottom side, and FLICKR gets his third kill. Killing spree. He has never died on Renekton, Papa Smithy.
There you go. 100% career no-death streak in his one game, which we're seeing right now. Spear Shojin, pretty good item on Renekton. But again, coming back to the lane assignment, they had to go with Spectre's Cowl GP against an AD threat. They had to go with Ucal in the top lane against Vlad, the last person he wants to get to, because of course, very tricky to assassinate a Vladimir with W up. And because of all of that, they take a lot of damage. They will lose Drake. They will lose Rift Herald for it. They lose a bot lane kill as well. These lane assignments are so much trickier, and Ucal is in long lanes against champions he doesn't have itemization to kill, rather than with a tempo lead, getting picks on the enemy.
Yeah, they have finally found some vision though, but let's have a look. This Abyssal Voyage that led to the death of this Pirate that stuck around a little bit too long.
Spirit Shojin, a cool item on Renekton. See it all the time in TFT, very rarely in League of Legends. You only really see it onto champions like Renekton, I guess Jax, if we ever do see him. And you know, after the buff, we might see him. Kiin is a pretty big Jax player, we'll remember. Yeah. Later in this series, so because of that,
we got a lot of Jax junglers as well.
Yeah.
As Canyon.
Probably can't get it from the jungle as easily, right?
Yeah, not so much. That being said, would be fun. See what he's going to do is Afreeca Freecs have moved over towards the top side of the map. Ucal getting a little bit of help to try and take down this turret. But speaking of taking turrets down, Shelly is going to join the jungle top duo of SKT. That should allow the tempo to be matched and possibly beaten as they take down a turret also. It is neck and neck between these two squads. Mountain Drake versus Ocean might make you feel like Afreeca a little bit ahead, but if SKT can really allow this game to be all about them, then the Mountain Drake becomes irrelevant. Scary moment now as Kahn is so strong on this Vladimir.
That's the issue. Atlas is, I think the game naturally, with the comps we have, is going to be about what SKT want to do, and very much Afreeca has to be, you know, the Generation X, what about me, make it about themselves with a mobile control ward, a mobile lineup. I mean, look at the Dirk evolution item we do see. It's Edge of Night coming through from Kiana, just hoping to get a positive burst trade and then deal with a low health bar, but a kill afterwards.
Well, We'll see whether they can line up these fights. And this is the area that they want them, as Kahn not going to face check, as Blast Cone just going to be taken there from Ucal to make sure that SKT can't use it. Kiin moving over. Remember, this is the artillery composition. If Ucal can land his supreme display of talent, then there's a cannon barrage on top of it. That's about a bajillion explosions in an area for the Afreeca Freecs. It really does mean that they have to fight in the right areas to get the most out of this composition. And right now, around these Drakes is a really good opportunity for that. Unfortunately, it's a Cloud Drake, so SKT not really feeling like they have much onus as far as contesting. And they can instead move towards this mid lane, fight in a little bit more open territory that they can name themselves.
Kahn waiting for a TP here on the Vladimir. They do not have eyes on Ucal, but understandably, they expect him to be around the area that they in fact do ping.
Yeah. That being said, they don't spot him at the moment as he moves out and now has been spotted. The rest of SKT converging. A teleport is going to come forward as Kahn makes his way towards the top side, finds a 4-man Emo Plague. Gigantic damage, but there's the supreme display of talent not actually getting the value that it wants, as the cannon barrage is very late. Ucal survives for a while, but eventually will go down, and aiming just can't find the skill shots. Flashed on and obliterated by FLICKR as Kiin is running for the hills. He's seen these abyssal voyages, not quite able to get the damage. Yes! The passive enough in the end, but it's only a very small cherry on top of an SKT cake.
It's an SKT pie, 5 for 2 against Afreeca Freecs. We talked about how difficult it would be for an assassin to bend the enemy to her wills. They would have a Renekton and a Skarner watching the flanks as no one was watching for Vladimir. In he rolls, and the moment the Hemoplague hits 4, you know it's going to be a victory for SKT.
Yep, absolutely no way the Dread could do anything. The headbutt hold is fantastic from Senan. So far has leveled up his performance on this this Alistar, but just couldn't quite find the fight, and SKT just, they lined up the dominoes and knocked them down, much like this practice team has been able to do so many times in the past.
Now, I don't believe they would have been able to turn it into a Baron because one of the people to die was Skarner. That's an important thing to remember. Speaking of, only QSS on the side of Afreeca is Ezreal, but they have Alistar and GP who have their own ways to get away from the suppression. So main person to watch here is Gragas. Basically, if you can ult him when he body slams in, then that's the person you're going for. Suddenly Gragas will die instantly before he can even get to stasis. Small to remember there. Only a 2,000 gold lead. How are Afreeca going to enact this chaos? Dread, the last person who's going to be able to do that.
Yep, aiming once again, pressing his E towards the enemy. And remember, it is an enemy Skarner as well. So we have to remind you guys of aiming's tendency to E into brushes they have no vision of. Has been a problem for him. We'll see whether the late game is going to be something that aiming can find some redemption in. As he does at least have the QSS, so we'll be able to get out of the way. As Kiin has been performing extremely well on this gangplank. That last team fight wasn't necessarily on him, and you can see able to shoot a Vladimir a whole lot of times. And if we had a look back at the gold graph, is very competitive, within a couple of 100 gold against the Vladimir. If he can land some big barrel chains, I mean, there is scaling potential, of course, for the gangplank as well. The reason we've been talking about SKT so much in that department is that, in theory, the damage potential out of a Vladimir is far more consistent.
The peaks in performance for Afreeca are still impressive, but how do they get it? What does it look like when it starts, when map control is so hard for them to get, is the part that gives us pause, right? And then you see moments like Ucal shadowing a 2 levels over in Vladimir. Well, it's not going to work out too well for Ucal. No armor yet in the build from Kahn. Holding on to Zhonya's for later, wanting to just wreck the backline with this position. And this is the sort of game where I actually like the Hurricane Varus, because he has so many different ways he should be safe. Like, the fight where Kiana gets to him, there were bigger problems along the way than whatever itemization he bought. So I think SKT so far kind of bent Afreeca to their wills, and yet you forget what the Supreme Display of Talent does for a half second, and 4 people get AoE stunned, and suddenly it can all be rewritten by the side of Afreeca Freecs.
Yep, you put a global ultimate out of Kiin as well on top of that. But here's the flash from Ucal, having to be used defensively. Gets stunned into the wall. That Supreme display of talent was good. Edge of Night does give a shield, and that means that Kahn not going to be able to get that extra bit of damage. But Ucal now without a flash, without an ultimate, and Afreeca not going to have too much teamfight hope along with it.
Now, I didn't see clearly, but it looked like the skill threading from Kahn was off there. It seemed like he missed Tides of Blood multiple times, and that's why no kill was possible. So I believe that was an execution mistake on the side of Kahn. I mean, the Edge of Night was popped at the end.
Yeah,
so
right at the end, yeah.
Seemed
the
like
follow-up kill wasn't happening.
it just seemed like a mistake there from what I could tell, but it wasn't as clear. QSS done for Kiana, but that's a lot of not Dirk, you know? Like, Edge of Night is a bit pricey when it comes to the Dirk items. The QSS is the same value as a Dirk, basically, so at the end of day, Ucal has been cutting down damage in order to, I guess, guarantee playmaking, but he's going to need friends in order to have the damage behind it to make it work.
And also, FLICKR's itemization is super comfortable into it as well, so he's happy to head into a lane. We'll have that GA almost done, and 2 armor items is about enough to deal with the double Dirk.
Tabbies onto the Varus as well, so a lot of incremental defensive itemization.
All right, Dread just going to get pounced on there by FLICKR as Baron gets very angry. Oh, the last auto, he is dead! Oh my god, he had Zhonya's!
He should have Zhonya's, it was mid-flight. I don't understand that one. I could tell he was dead. He should have told us. Now suddenly they're boned when it comes to Baron smites.
Yeah, and SKT going to move over and look to take it. This is dangerous though. Remember, a Baron pit, pretty good time for a Cannon Barrage and a Supreme display of talent, but Ucal is going to have to show it. Aiming, feeling pretty safe here, but remember, FLICKR can close distance pretty effectively. He's taking a lot of damage, though. SKT with 5 members now in the area. Afreeca looking like they will be trying to fight. Dread is going to be up 8 seconds. He's never making it to this fight. As Chains of Corruption comes down, Ucal diving into the backline, gets himself the Supreme display of talent, but the explosion not quite big enough. FLICKR is going to go down, though. Is now aiming, getting turned on. The Hemoplate's huge. The last Tides of Blood going to be enough. Double kill coming in for Kahn. He threaded those abilities just fine. And SKT will take the Baron and a huge advantage in game number 1.
Here comes Dread, front row to see the bad news. He's re-engaging.
It's a 3-man body slam as Kahn into the Sanguine Pool. It's not even going to die. Insult, meet injury. SKT in the driver's seat, over double the kills now after that run of play.
And this should be the moment that guarantees SKT the Game 1 victory. Here's the closeout. Here's the replay of how it all started. FLICKR just says that's a lot of autos onto a turret, and it was a nice assist coming through from Skarner. He's the one who actually started up the Baron, but this should have been easy. Zhonya's, like, it feels bad to Zhonya's in that spot, and there's a chance you die anyway, but if you do die, you ain't got no unsealed spellbook, so Baron becomes hard. And what you'll notice about SKT, they weren't rushing down Baron. They knew how long it would take Gragas to get back. They were just focusing on, hey, when do we peel? When are we going to see this assassin over the wall? And when she comes in, damn, do we have some crowd control to bring her down.
Yep, and they dealt with it very, very nicely. We're going to see in the picture-in-picture, I believe Kahn just soloing down the Ocean Drake, as this was a real tilter for the Afreeca players. I mean, Kahn surviving on about 0 health with that Sanguine Pool.
Oh,
the
baby.
desperation
He's got some light reading, baby.
So much light reading. Even has the Morellonomicon to sift through as well. Don't tell LS about it.
And I believe the title of that book is This Is How SKT Make Worlds, because if they win this matchup, the only way they miss Worlds is if a team beats Griffin in the final, and Griffin goes on circuit points. So when it comes to circuit points, Dumb one previously, if SKT had lost, only needed to make the final to get through on circuit points. If SKT win this best of 3, then they are much more in control of at least second place.
Yep, they're guaranteed making it in there. As Kahn not going to be so lucky just yet. Remember, holding onto the pool for a long time. He wanted to kill Dread, who this time finds the Zhonya's button. And that's 1 versus 4, and Kahn just wanders away. Phase Rush pretty strong in that department, and SKT will break open the base most likely, as Teddy moves on over with a hell of a lot of attack speed. Ucal lying in wait, but 1 versus 4, what are you going to do? Absolutely nothing. This is the scaling issue of assassins from behind. Very hard to find your moment, but SKT moving themselves back. Ucal finds a brush as FLICKR going to face check him. And there's the headbutt pole. Cannon Barrage coming in as well, not doing a heck of a lot of damage as Teddy takes a small spattering of damage, but otherwise not too much.
Even Blake's still on cooldown, so SKT posturing more than really trying to assault this inhibitor. It's about 50% HP for now.
Yep, but the base is actually broken. Being able to take down that turret just enough for SKT. They've got 30 seconds left on this Baron buff. 8,000 gold, all of a sudden the lead. This was such a close game up until that Baron, and where everything went wrong for Afreeca. Clid gets the flash, gets the impale, and that is a very dead Gragas. I believe Zhonya's was even on cooldown at that stage. And SKT, it's feeling very elementary. Kahn, he knows this feeling, but this time he's got backup. Effort is going to make his way in. FLICKR teleported, gets into the backline. Culver Meek to get all of his health back. As Kiin has to eat oranges to get out of the way of the open maw of this crocodile. Teddy moves over as well, and Afreeca just can't do anything. This is the tower we prepared earlier. Kahn has a pull that he's going to utilize here. And Teddy taking matters into his own hands, sidestepping the Mystic shots beautifully.
He's
and a
frontline.
second inhibitor is going to go down.
He's frontline just to zone away Afreeca from punishing the melee auto attackers from taking down the inhibitor. So 2 inhibitors because Teddy showed a lot of aggro inviting in the front lines. Very nicely done by SKT. They knew their role, they executed it, and Clid does exactly what we mentioned. Just go for Dread. He's the only person you can lock down easily.
Yeah, and the barrel seemed to have not found Clid there at all. It must have been Clid getting out just a little bit too far with his Predator, as well as a few of the items that he has for boosting his movement speed, Righteous Glory being one of them.
Sadly, Vladimir hasn't had any time to do any more reading because he's been running away from enemies with face rush the entire time.
He just wants to get home and go to bed so he can put up his feet and get into a good book.
He's only 15 pages away from the end.
Oh.
He'll get there.
He'll get there. Imagine if it was like Harry Potter or something, you know, and he was waiting for that cliffhanger.
Which is your favorite Harry Potter book?
My favorite is number 5.
Me too!
It was my most hated when I first read it.
Oh, that means I hate you.
Well, no. It was the most hated when I first read it, and then I grew up a little bit, because I was very young when I read Harry Potter for the first time. I grew up a little bit and realized that storytelling in that book was absolutely amazing.
Goblet of Fire is the one we're talking about here. Is Kahn
No,
Order
of the Phoenix. Order of the Phoenix.
That's right, Order of the Phoenix.
As, yeah, Kiin, we are trading a lot of abilities here. Ultimate finally comes down as Kiin getting it turned on. True Shot Barrage not going to be enough. Kiin going to flash, gets out of the tighter blood range just barely at the end there. This is working out in favor of SKT. Aiming had to be pulled over. That man advantage that we talk about with these sort of pushes when you have a lead like this is with SKT as Ucal. He's just trying to find his way in. FLICKR has to go into his Zhonya's, as he is going to get knocked down to the Guardian Angel. Now, Ucal moves his way in, still hasn't used that ultimate just yet. Does eventually throw it down, but it is not going to be enough, as Effort is going to get turned on. He's going to have to flash, has himself the thick skin, but remember, doesn't last quite as long now as Aiming wants to find the Mystic shot, is going to be able to do it. After a cheeky E, and now Baron could be available for the Afreeca Freecs. It is not over yet.
They're trying to force it around Baron. No TPs to try to backdoor. Look at the base. It's in, it tatters, but there's no way actually for SKT to turn on to that. So
sometimes you have to all in, as the Baron should just be taken. The Mountain Drake is going to be the trade that SKT accept. And understanding your limits is certainly something here. And SKT, with only 3 members, weren't able to challenge Afreeca. So this game, well and truly, back in, as 2 minutes now on these inhibitors, 3 minutes on the Baron. Afreeca could stabilize, and FLICKR finds himself a little bit too far up.
It's because SKT are trying to do too many things. They're trying to play 3 lanes against an assassin comp that already lost its inhibitors, so has the ability to run down 1 lane and make something happen. They had just zoned away Vladimir, so there was no way Vladimir was going to be involved. If you look at the cooldown bar, there are no teleports available for the Vladimir, for example, so see hero, kill hero is actually a pretty viable thing to do with the high mobility Afreeca had as Baron was able to spawn, so SKT bit off more than they can chew. What is the Baron going to do? Most likely it's going to extend the game till beyond the minute 40 for both inhibitors to respawn. That's not my memory. You can see in the bottom left of the screen the inhibitor respawn timers. This is basically a we will not lose the war of attrition, no inhibitor turrets up, 3 inhibitors down scenario. Can't really be much more than that, as SKT going to park everyone topside and try to engineer a way to not fight against Baron, but find a way to get this last inhibitor.
Yeah. Trying to spread the map out, are SKT, not allowing Afreeca to utilize this Baron very well because they are still ahead. 7,000 gold approximately the lead. Here for SKT. 2,000 Baron power play though, and this is going to be Afreeca avoiding that 10,000 gold gap that we talk about being such a big wall to come back from, especially with a composition like SKT's and a Vladimir like theirs as well. That's 6 items onto Kahn at the moment. Got a really cool hat that he can wear to keep the sun out of his eyes while he's got the pages open of his cool books. Kahn waiting over to the side.
Being proxied away by Ucal, and if Ucal can keep Vladimir out of the fight, he's doing his job. That'd be a great trade of effectiveness, given that Ucal's got a pretty dull blade.
Well, that's a Chains of Corruption landing there. FLICKR looks for his way in, but Dread is going to use that Zhonya's. Kahn finds his way into the backline.
Baby!
Oh my god! The explosion of damage. Ezreal was there for a second, gone the next Senan. Unbreakable will, but I believe it's going to be broken now. Ucal comes in and says, guys, where did you go? I was looking for a flank, and this is just a 1 versus 3. He is mopped up easily, sliced, diced, prepared for dinner. And SKT looking for the game #1 win, and they'll find it. Nexus turrets will be taken down. Afreeca, they found that surprise Baron at the end, but not quite enough as the Nexus explodes, and SKT, 1 more, and they'll be moving on to face Sandbox in the next round.
Not a flawless performance by SKT, but an effective one where we looked at their draft and said, this is the sort of draft that can keep a Qiyana comp at arm's length, and largely they were able to do that in 37 minutes. Even though there was the recent picks into Baron, we never really saw a time where we kind of could look forward to where SKT would close out the game. So where Afreeca will be able to close out the game. They got no meaningful leads, and Vladimir was very out of order in this game. Looking around the crowd, SKT dominated as you would expect. SKT looking to go through. Only 1 game to go. If they win game #2, we're all over for this match day.
Yep, that guy just saying that he's not sitting next to his girlfriend, is what he's indicating. But the 3D glasses are there. That's pretty cool. Let's go to Worlds. I want to go to Europe as well, wanting to follow SKT, and of course SKT's chances feeling a little bit higher after that particular victory. Of course, this is never going to be SKT not with any chance of making it to Worlds.
Correct.
They are definitely guaranteed to play in the Worlds qualifier, even if they fall out in this particular series. They want to make sure that they can get there as early as possible, and fights like this are going to do it. I love the decisiveness, and Kahn just finding his way into exactly the right position.
Beautiful too. Able to pull through the body slam at melee range, and then Vladimir is a very cool champion. 6 items. Qiyana was occupying his attention, but then Ucal tried to proxy the wave instead. Meanwhile, Vladimir just rolls through, such as the Hemomancer. Deserving victory for SKT, and even though the gold lead was very competitive for the first 18 minutes or so, we were always kind of setting it up as that going into SKT's hands, and the moment they grasped it, they ran away with it.
They certainly did. It's one of those games where Afreeca, if they had have been able to find a few more of those team fights, a few more of those ganks, it would have been a better situation. I really liked what they had as far as if they found the right team fights. Weren't able to, and that is why we're moving into a game 2 with SKT in the lead. Can they run the gauntlet? Let's find out more after the break.